What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Blood Phantom 81. So this is going to be somewhat of a personal video. I'll basically go over what my goals are for the rest of my life. No pressure. As I see fit here in Q4 of 2021. So obviously this can change. But I kind of want to talk about two things. First is constants, and the second is dynamic personalities. So, what do I mean by constants? Constants are those things that I think I'm going to want no matter what. As of now, these are the things that I've either always wanted or wanted recently that I think, you know what, I think I really want this and I'm not really willing to compromise too much. Versus things that I kind of want now, but I'm not sure if I would in 5 years, right? So I'm going to be addressing the constants. And the second thing I want to talk about is dynamic personalities. Now, there's some days that I wake up feeling quite ambitious. There's some nights that I can't sleep because I'm super excited thinking about some new idea or some new scheme to get wealth. By a scheme, I don't mean like pyramid scheme, I mean like new strategy, for example. And it just kind of comes and goes, right? There's other days that I don't feel that, almost like I want to either retreat or rest, or kind of, if you get tired of hitting your head against the wall, going barrier after barrier, sometimes you just want to rest. When I think about that more ambitious side, I think about something more of like a fire. I think about the times I felt overlooked or disrespected in my life and the unwillingness to let those feelings go. The desire to want to prove people wrong and almost like, I don't want to say destroy because obviously I'd be building something, but almost like maybe conquer, just really take hold of life. Basically grab it by the horns and just destroy it, right? There's a part of me that wants to do that. But like I said, a part of me wants to rest and sort of thinks a little bit more long term, like, why do those things matter? Those things obviously don't matter. And you should, value your time. Somewhere in the middle, though, I recognize that this money thing, this investing thing, is something that I'm going to want to do for the rest of my life anyway. So it's not just necessarily this tool to, eviscerate my enemies or anything like that. It just so happens to be my hobby, right? So even if I'm retired, I'm still going to look for ways to make more money. And, someday I hope to leave a pretty positive legacy, I would say. All right. So now that all that is said, first let's talk about some of the constants. So what are some things that I know that I want? Number one, fire. Fire is at the center of everything that I would possibly want, right? Now, obviously, for all the noobs out there, retire early doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It just means that you could spend your time doing what you want without really having to worry about money. You don't need to get a job. You don't need to do certain things. You don't need to live extremely frugally. You could just do certain things when you want and if you want them, right? So fire is one of the main constants. All right, so I also created two different tracks. One is for the ambitious side and one is for the relaxed side. And I also created a timeline of when I would hit certain milestones. So before we actually talk about these two tracks individually, I kind of want to finish talking about what are some of those static or uncompromising desires that I have. So one of the first ones, believe it or not, is a house with a pool. Now, over the past few years, I would say this has started to really, really appeal to me. And today, when I look at houses, like as far as like dream houses go, I guess, like a pool is there like 100% of the time. And it's something that I really care about now. Now, why do I care about this? So, the idea of just being like outdoors in water, hanging out, also like with alcohol present. Also because it's like a great, place to exercise. Also, it's a great place to like invite friends over and just hang out. Like, so many cool reasons why having a pool would be awesome. That this isn't something that I want to compromise on. And another thing that I don't want to compromise on is actually good food. So this is, sort of random, but I wanted to bring this up because when I do see other fire journeys, I noticed that food is always something that's under budget. Now, a lot of you guys don't know me personally, but on the weekends I love to grill, and a lot of cuts of beef that I really like ribeye and filet mignon, and like tri-tip, for example. Well, not so much tri-tip, but especially ribeye and filet mignon are actually pretty pricey. And so the idea of having to budget of like which cuts of meat that I buy on the weekends, like to grill, like that seems like it kind of sucks. So I would put this under the uncompromising section. And then the last thing I'd really care about is like travel at least 2 times a year. Now, this isn't a lot, especially for like, most people who really want to travel all the time. For me, I'm not like a super huge traveler, but to be able to have this ability is something that really make me happy. And I don't really care about traveling to luxurious places or like doing cruises or anything like that. But certainly, let's say random country or random state, like within the United States, that'd be pretty awesome. So these are some things that I don't really want to compromise on. And so I'm actually going to group these two together into what I would describe as high quality life. This is at the point where you start spending a little bit more money, I would say, on your day to day life, right? And so the quality of life increases. All right. So now where do we put this stuff? Like house with the pool and high quality life. So basically on these two tracks, so it is currently 2021. And as I mentioned, some days I feel relaxed, some days I feel ambitious. On the days I feel relaxed, like almost like you don't really want to go to work, you don't really want to deal with your responsibilities, you wish like you could just spend your day doing what you want. I think about that and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to retire in the next few years. And honestly, even in the United States, given how expensive things are, like I would say with maybe like 800,000 in the bank, or sorry, in investments and or the bank, if you have cash, and some kind of property like a condo that you're slowly paying down. If you can use those investments to, basically pay your condo down as well as like have a little bit of extra spending money, you can most definitely retire in the United States. And it doesn't have to be that crazy. So I would say that given my current path, I could probably retire in 2025. Now, by 2025, what would my portfolio look like? I would likely have two rental properties. And so these could be either two condos or maybe a condo, maybe a multifamily. Basically like two rental properties, right? And this could be like, 2 units or 3 units, etc. I think I can have this by 2025 because I actually plan on getting a property at the end of this year. So I would get this by 2025, and then my fire year would be in 2025. Now, this seems pretty ambitious, I think, for a lot of people, but I do think that if these are paid off enough, especially with my investments, and those are providing cash flow, and I also have an investment property, like let's say around maybe $800,000, which I think is possible over the next 4 years, then I think I can certainly fire, and I think I can have the house with a pool. So let me go ahead and change this to purple so that it's a little bit cleaner. And let me go ahead and add house with a pool. All right, so house with the pool around this point, right? So by 2025, I would have the house with the pool, and just a few years afterwards, I would start living that high quality life. Now, why would the high quality life come a little bit after? So the reason why I planned for that is because I think that at this point I'd probably be like just getting by, but I do think that my investments will significantly outpace like the margin that I have. So what I mean by that is like let's say I have like $1,000 in excess income. After I pay off all my expenses, I think that $1,000 is going to outpace inflation, especially if I do another real estate deal or continue to trade in the stock market, etc. And so I think a few years after, I can start living that high quality lifestyle. And so this is basically what I want, right? This is the first phase of retiring and living a happy life. All right, so now let's talk about the ambitious track. So the ambitious track says that I wouldn't retire at 2025, but I would continue to work hard until, let's say, about 2030. So I currently have a job that pays a high income. So this is a high income revenue stream that's coming in that I could then use to buy rental properties and continue feeding all of my investments. So at this point, I wouldn't have two rental properties. I would probably have four rental properties. Now, I'm keeping it conservative because I would say that I'd likely get into multifamily real estate. So maybe that's a quadplex or a triplex or maybe some apartment units or something like that. So I would likely have four rental properties, as I mentioned, around this time, and then eventually fire. Now, because I didn't actually start taking money out of my investment accounts, I didn't buy the house with the pool just yet. I would also be a multimillionaire in stocks. So I would have a multi-million stock market portfolio, in my honest opinion, at this point. And because I would have that, I truly think that, before 2040, most likely, I would likely hit a really big milestone of having a 10 million plus portfolio. Now, 10 million is not enough to save the rainforest or anything like that, but it's certainly a massive chunk of change, and that's only the beginning. And I think at this point, I don't know how much I'd have by 2050, right? But I mean, if I have 10 million at this point, um, maybe I have like 50 million or something like that by 2050. We'll see. I don't know. But that's basically the ambitious track. And then I think at this point, I would also splurge on a not just a house with the pool, but also big house, big pool, right? This is like one of those stupid wealthy houses that are like, wow, this person clearly has a lot of money. Haha, look how rich I am. Look how much better than you I am. So that's like this kind of money, in my opinion, right? And so, yeah, this is basically the two paths that I could take. And I kind of flip flop back and forth between which of these I'd want. Now, of course, I did end up leaving this part open, which is the legacy. So, what kind of legacy would I live under the ambitious path? This would be that rich guy who actually uses money to make impact, right? At least that's what I hope I would become. Um, and with this path, I would likely be simple guy. I would be that guy, that neighbor that retires early, doesn't really, I mean, has his own side projects, stays busy, but like just chills, right? I mean, obviously I could do all this, but I think this would last a little bit longer. Like I think maybe the 10 million would come just a little bit after that, right? That'd be a simple guy with 10 million. But basically, for most of my life, I would be known as a simple guy. So yeah, as I mentioned, I keep flip flopping back and forth. I think it ties back to how much I want to give back because I think if I'm this guy, I can give a lot more back, especially with money, than if I'm this guy. This is just like living for myself kind of thing. And I keep on, this becomes more and more appealing the older I get, to be honest. Like retiring in 4 years sounds really nice. And I don't know, I'm kind of leaning more towards this guy, but yeah, we'll see what I eventually decide. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys are kind of aiming for in your situation. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.